Welcome to selfdiscoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Their Story Matters right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Roger Chiocchi. We're going to be talking about a very sensitive subject. It is a factional book. He has taken factional things that have happened and fictionalized it. It's a wrenching political novel that asks of how long grieving parents can be ignored. And when we're looking at kids going into schools and shooting everybody up and how they got the guns in the first place, yes, it is something that hits close to home for many people. The literary titan says if you're drawn to political charged thrillers that reveal the human cost of policy decisions, this is a must read. And he says, in this wrenching political novel, a school shooting turns suburban parents into federal criminals, raising the urgent question, how long can grieving parents be ignored? Book Life editors pick that Brushy Ridge Militia is how the intersection of grief and hopelessness leads to a group of parents to become so enraged after a mass shooting to conclude that enough is enough, compelling them to commit a major act of civil disobedience. In this fictional version of civil action meets the trial of the Catonsville Nine. Rogers graduated from Ithaca College. He has an MBA in distinction. He's 25 years in the senior executive Madison Avenue as a senior vice president and young Republican and president of the Y&R subsidy. And, this is something.
That was Young and Rubicam, not
Oh,
Young
thank you.
Republican.
Okay, Rubicon,
I'm
sorry.
not a
Yes, yeah.
member of the Young
The eye
Republican.
immediately goes to something. Right.
That was
He's
funny.
my dyslexia. I turn words around the
Okay.
wrong way. But he's written other books as well. The Time Framed, a sci-fi paranormal thriller with critical acclaim. We'll touch on his other books as well. But this is a very, very big subject, and it's a very sensitive one. We feel helpless. My thoughts and prayers don't do it, right? People want to see action. They want to see accountability. And okay, then they shot the person that did it. That doesn't mean it's the end of it. How do the young get the guns in the first place? And why is nothing being done about it? And I think it's an age-old story that keeps going around and around and round in a circle with not feeling they're getting anywhere. So my question to you is, why did you decide to write on this subject? Because it really is a very hot topic.
Well, an idea was floating around in my mind for a while. I live about a half an hour, 40 minutes from Sandy Hook. And I was home the day that happened. I was working from home. And so I sort of followed it in real time, saw Obama go on TV. And I was so struck by it because it's just not
Mhm.
in your neighborhood, but in your
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
That happened mid-December. I think it was 2012. And on Christmas Day, my daughter and I went to Sandy Hook, and there was a makeshift memorial, and we laid some flowers down, but it affected me.
Hmm.
And then Marjorie Stoneman Douglas happened about maybe 3 to 5 years later. I forget the exact date.
Hmm.
And terrible thing. This was a high school, not
Yes.
an elementary school, but there was a big town hall meeting there about 4 days later. And all the political figures were there, the two senators, the local Congress people, the mayor, and all the town councilmen. And even a representative from the NRA.
Hmm.
And the history teacher got up and she asked the panel a question. What militia was this young man a member of? How was he well regulated? And that got me thinking. Um, those 27 words,
Mm,
uh, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. To me, they're ambiguous. And what's this
mm,
about a militia?
yeah.
And and some people tend to just concentrate on the second half, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and
Yes.
and ignore the first half. So I sort of thought there was a paradox there.
Mm,
This is about militias, but those words are being used, even though they've been, not amended, but they've been interpreted by the courts over the decades. That's still the umbrella, those
yeah.
27 words that really controls U.S. gun policy. So I just thought maybe um, there's a story in um, in those words, and particularly around the word militia. And
Mm,
you add that to during the years, I was thinking about this and it was sort of brewing in my head. I would occasionally see a news clip of parents of children who were murdered in school shootings lobbying the state legislature
mm,
or the federal legislature. They were holding up pictures of their kids, and the pro-gun legislators just walked right by like they
I
like
know.
they were invisible.
Ah,
And that really hurt me.
mm-hmm,
Um, and so I had the idea, like, suppose a school shooting happens, the parents go through all the stages of grief, and they lobby Congress. And suppose the Speaker of the House is very pro-gun. He takes a
mm,
lot of money from the pro-gun
mm,
lobby. And suppose he won't meet with them. And even though they stand outside his office, he walks right by. And then suppose they decide they read the Second Amendment, and one of the characters, one of the parents, is a pretty well respected lawyer. And suppose they get together and say, "What's this about a militia? It
mm,
says you're allowed to form militias. So let's form a militia and take the speaker hostage and make him watch all of the footage of the
yes.
devastation,
Aha.
the hallway footage when it actually happened, the morgue photos, and they never had any intention to harm him, until he agrees to bring more, safer gun legislation to the floor of the House of Representatives. So I guess that was a long-winded answer,
No, a perfect
but
one.
um,
Um, and that's the thing is, what does it take for them to wake up? What does it take for their conscience to be ignited? What does it take that their self-interest is put on the back burner and they actually have empathy for the people that have gone through this? And sometimes it takes something happening to them for them to wake
yes,
up,
could be,
right?
yeah.
And in this case is, being abducted and being made to watch, looking at the faces of the parents that have lost. And it kind of reminds me, oh gosh, is it To Kill a Mockingbird?
Could be, yeah.
Uh,
It's not
there was one scene where a black girl had been raped, and the father had killed the people that had raped
okay.
his daughter and left her for dead. And then he goes through the whole thing in his last line as he describes everything that's happened to her to the jury. He says, "Now imagine she's white." And
Okay.
that impact, right? That one statement. When she was a black kid, they didn't care. It was in the South.
Yeah.
Now imagine she's white, and they suddenly see their own children there. And
Yeah.
I think it's when it becomes relatable that it could be your own, then people maybe start paying attention. But, they remove themselves so far from the accountability, from the results, right? That of what happens, as long as they're okay. Oh, I feel sorry for them. Yeah, that's all not very nice. But where is the conscience in there that this is wrong? We've got to do something about it. Well, if they're getting
Well,
paid, or it's
well,
not in their agenda.
they're supposed to be working for us.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
us, to them, us is the people who give them money and the organizations that give them money.
Exactly. We've given
We're
them the power to receive the money from the organizations for their
well,
bidding.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it that way, but no, no, I don't want them getting money at all from
No, but
organizations.
we have.
Yeah, but
You know,
you're right. You're right.
until you change the law that they cannot be supported by guns, by pharmaceutical, by any of these, no lobbying, that they cannot be supported by these people. They're a
Mm,
civil servant on a civil servant salary, and they cannot receive this from anyone else.
mm.
They're in it for their pocket. They're not in it for anything else.
And in the US, the Supreme Court made it even worse with Citizens United, which when was that passed? Probably around 2010, give or take. Basically it said you can give as much as you want. And that's not good because
That means anybody could be bought.
yeah, anybody could be bought. It tilts the playing field away
Hmm.
from the Vox Populi,
Yeah.
and it just makes it puts up more of a roadblock
Hmm.
uh, to people
Justice.
getting to justice. Yeah,
Mm.
correct.
Or an accountability.
Yes.
Right? If there's enough money behind it and enough lawyers that can manipulate and mistrude and,
Yeah.
they can throw everything at it when one person, can't afford that kind of lawyer, um, or a lawyer where they have a team of lawyers.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately we have seen now so evidently, especially recently, how money can manipulate and buy anybody, and how it gives power to people to do whatever they want, and that there is no accountability. What is that saying about humanity? And unfortunately, all these school shootings, and you notice it's always, oh, the person had mental illness. Well,
Well,
and
that,
from
that that's partially true sometimes.
yes, of
Uh,
course,
um,
for someone to pick up a gun and start shooting other people because they feel something inside that hasn't been recognized, absolutely. But why are we not paying more money and attention on mental illness that people don't have to go to that extreme?
well, in the book, the shooter is named Austin McGurk, and he's 18 years old, and he was bullied throughout his life.
Hmm.
Okay, and what happens is he was voracious, no, well, the wrong, tremendously bullied in the locker room by some of the jocks,
Hmm.
and they videoed the whole thing, and of course
Right.
it went through social
Humiliation.
media.
Hmm.
And this kid, what he did was wrong, but
Yes.
this kid didn't want to go back to school the next day.
Hmm.
And in the state of Ohio, where it takes place, an 18-year-old can buy a rifle,
Hmm.
and they have the private seller loophole,
Hmm.
which means somebody, if it's a private sale between two people, all you got to do is prove you're 18.
Hmm.
So there's no background check, no
Right.
safeguards. But to your point, we should be doing a lot more about
Hmm.
mental illness. And you know what? I think the bully is partially responsible,
Oh, yes. Yes.
because that's a big problem. And the sad thing about this is some of these kids who do that, if it was a parallel universe and they weren't bullied, maybe they would have had depression or something, or be bipolar, but they would
Yeah.
get through it.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, they would be productive and happy in
Yeah.
some cases. But you get them at that moment of the utmost vulnerability,
Yes.
where they do something horrific like that. And in some ways, we're all responsible because
I
we
agree.
have laws. Kids get bullied. Um, the social media platforms,
Oh, yeah. We're,
so
we're seeing suicides, from kids that have been
yeah,
humiliated by, recordings that have been put up there. And the humiliation was just too much to bear. And we've got to bear in mind, these are kids that are still kids. They're coming into their adulthood. They haven't navigated a lot in life yet. They haven't got all the tools. Look, if it happened to us as an adult, we'll be devastated. But a kid
sure.
hasn't gained all those tools yet, or even knows the resources. And very often are just told to suck it up. Oh, we just ignore them and they'll go away, which don't. Bullies, if they're not faced, will
Yeah.
carry on bullying. And a bully very often is somebody that's so insecure in themselves that to bully someone else is to give them power because they feel powerless.
Yeah, and particularly in this case where the bullies were like the football players,
Mm.
they get a
Hmm.
pass because
Yeah.
they're winning, and yeah,
Yes,
and one
exactly.
of them was the star player. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, but it's the whole, you could write a doctoral thesis on social stratification
Mm.
in a high school, right? Um,
And it really kind of looks at, I mean, now it's like, oh, well, we need, gun things in there. Well, we need to have military in there. That is not what school is about. It isn't about, making it feel like they're in a war. It should be a safe place for teachers, for children. But there should be some more education on the ramifications of bullying, the
yes.
ramifications of that. There should be a safe haven for a child that is going through something that they can go to someone without judgment, without fear, without ridicule, and without anybody else knowing,
And
right?
that would be good, but a lot of these kids, particularly when you're going through puberty and after puberty, they hold a lot of things inside
Yeah.
and they don't want to go.
Mm,
But it would be good, but I'm sure some would in that
yeah.
situation. So at least you're getting through to some of them.
Yes.
There's not gonna be a solution that solves 100%.
No, no. And
But
the bottom line is I don't think anyone should have a gun unless, they're in rural areas, it's for defense or it's for hunting. Um, it's obviously police force and frontliners. Why else do you need a gun? And I think that there are more guns than people in America, right?
yes,
And like, whoa, no, hang on. You've become such gun lovers and it's become such an identification. The more guns I've got, the more,
yeah.
powerful I am. And that again screams insecurity. That again screams that you feeling less than, and that gun, look, 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 gives you the power to feel more and lord over someone else. I produced a book last year called Our Forgotten Children, which is an anthology around the raising of our children and what
Very
systems
nice.
are breaking down. And the problem is with the system is at fault. And until we change the system, we're not supporting our children, we're not supporting our families. And one of them is the gun laws, but it's also, as you said, the social media. It is also two parents working, latchkey kids. Where are the after school programs? Where is the,
Mm.
in Japan, they teach kids from the age of 6 empathy, how to have compassion and empathy for others. Why are we not doing the same? Because for someone to go in and annihilate someone, even bully other people, they have no empathy, they
Yeah.
have no compassion. So why is this not being brought in? There's so many things that we need to change. The guns are the ultimate, and that
Sure.
needs to change. But we also need to change the way we raise our children. And they watch videos, they watch movies. That the number of people that get killed in the movie, it's just like where is the
And
the remorse? Yes,
video games. I mean,
yeah,
they actually fight a war.
yes, and that
Um,
and it detaches them
yes,
from the reality. I've interviewed so many veterans that have come back that I will never be the same. I can't be the same.
yeah,
You've taken a life, or you've seen lives being taken. You cannot come back as the same person. And there's various degrees of post-traumatic stress. But the person that left and the person that came back is radically different because of they knew they were fighting a war, they knew they were defending, but
yeah.
still the things they had to do and the things they had to see, played around with their psyche. But when you're detached and taking people out like gang, members,
Yeah.
taking people out as an honor notch to prove you're part of the gang, it's like that detachment from consequence or empathy or compassion is scary.
Well, it's interesting because one of the characters was in the Gulf War, and he had PTSD, and he saw his buddies get killed up close, um, and he was an alcoholic. A lot of people self-medicate after
Oh,
stuff like
yes.
that, and I've
Yes.
heard many stories of the same. And yeah, so we live in a world where we all need help, and there's certain structural foundations in place that leads to political intransigence.
Hmm.
And that's the core of this book. It's about
Right. You're
people
never
being
alone.
hurt. I
Yeah.
gave my child is
Yes.
dead, and you don't really care.
Exactly.
I mean, it's about these parents getting that phone call, that devastating phone call
Yes.
that no one ever wants to get.
Right.
And and the rest of us, when we hear about a school shooting on TV, you know, some of us say thoughts and prayers, some of us are more impacted,
Yeah.
but a week later, it's a different news cycle. But these parents,
It's a different shooting.
yeah, these parents have to live through the devastation and deal with it. And
Forever.
yeah, and when they go and when they go and seek compassion from the people we've elected, um, and
Hmm.
don't get it because of really it comes down to
Yeah.
money and greed. Um, that's like a rock against a hard
Exactly.
place, and you're caught in between. And so these
Hmm.
parents
Yeah.
finally decide to make an act of civil disobedience. And, it's interesting because America was based on civil disobedience. Um, you know, some people,
Yeah.
some people in Boston got a little ticked off when King George put a tax on their tea. And what did they do? They went onto a ship and they threw boxes into Boston Harbor. Rosa Parks,
Yes.
civil disobedience.
Yes.
She knew she was going to go to jail.
Yeah.
And so civil disobedience is sometimes the only way. I mean, we wouldn't
It's
have
been
had
the catalyst for change.
yeah, we wouldn't have the Civil Rights Act in America if it wasn't for civil disobedience, Rosa and Martin Luther King
Yes.
and all those other great leaders at the time.
Hmm.
There would have been intransigence at
Yeah.
the legislative level. So yeah, I mean,
It's people sacrificing themselves for the greater good.
yeah,
I'm going to stand for something. I know I'm going to pay for the consequences. I might even pay with my life, but a stand needs to be taken. And
yeah.
like in case of these parents, when there is absolutely no compassion or empathy or acknowledgement of their loss, right? Then yes, if it happened to me, I'd be one of those parents. I will not be able to, after the grief and of the initial, I will not be able to just sit back and do nothing. I would want that accountability. I would want that change to happen. And if this is the only way to get the attention, if this is the only way to make it happen, then unfortunately we force people to do things that they would never ever thought they would do.
And the irony, this is about the Second Amendment, a lot of the book.
Hmm.
And the Second Amendment was worded that ambiguous way that I said
Hmm.
because it was a compromise, like many things.
Yes.
And there were the anti-federalists who wanted strong state governments, and the federalists that wanted a strong federal government. And one of the compromises were that people could form militias to protect their community, and if they feared that a federal government could evolve into a monarchy. So
Mm.
if the federal government became tyrannical, if the
Yeah.
federal government became tyrannical, they could attack the federal government in the form of a militia.
Right.
So what this lawyer father, when he talked to the other parents after their, bad experience in Washington, he said, what the Speaker of the House did to us is tyranny. Because if
Mm.
we entered his office as lobbyists for gun companies with, pocketfuls of pockets
Door
full
will be
of
wide
money,
open.
yeah, the door would be wide open, but he wouldn't talk to us.
Right.
So, Yeah, and obviously they go to jail,
Yes,
but ultimately it comes down to the Supreme Court, and it forces the Supreme Court to make, I won't give it away, it's a spoiler,
right.
but it forces the Supreme Court to come up with what those 27 words really
Mm.
mean.
And that's sometimes what you have to do. You have to force the hand. And many years ago, America sold blood to Canada and it was tainted. And over 2,000 people ended up with AIDS because of it. And each one of them tried to get compensation for it. Some died, some, were going to live with it for the rest of their lives. And then a lawyer came up with the thing, okay, big courts are ignoring us. What we're going to do is all 2,000 people are going to go to small courts at the same time. And with so
Okay.
many cases going at the same time, it had to go to the Supreme Court.
Mhm.
Eventually, they won their case. Many of them had died already, but that was the point: is that we think that everything has to be the big, the big person, the big this, and we don't. We, the foot soldiers, the people on the one step at a time moving forward, are the people that get it done. And this is, I think, where we're at right now. This is what we're seeing right now in the world: is the people going, I've had enough. And they're standing up and they're coming together and they're kind of forcing that leadership to change because of a united voice. And this is what these parents were doing. They knew the
Yeah,
sacrifice, right? But they knew that it wasn't just for their kids that they needed to do this. They needed to do it so nobody else would go through what they've gone through.
true. I mean, they wanted to, the only thing their kids could do now that they were passed away was use their legacy
Yeah.
to help other kids in the future. And it goes beyond just gun laws, like the
Yes.
mental health issue, the bullying
Yes.
issue.
Yes.
Um,
With
so
so
that,
many cutbacks that we're seeing right now, it's like,
yeah.
I've said this over and over again. It's kind of my platform. If we do not invest in life, and life means planet, all things on planet, humanity, if we do not invest in the people, then we have a poor society. And we are not investing in the people. We're not putting the money where it needs to be, supporting the parents so they can parent in the right way. The village supporting the parents. Supporting the children when they feel that they have nowhere to turn, right? Making sure that people have a roof over their head, food in their stomach. If we invest in that, we will see more fruitfulness. Instead, we're seeing more despair. What happens with despair? People don't think they have anywhere to go, and a crime or something is committed.
Well, I
So,
mean, I think crime is related to poverty in many ways.
absolutely. Yes.
If you think the rules don't work for you,
Hmm.
and that everyone, that some people are getting everything and we're getting nothing, and we can't
Exactly.
really see a way out, well, you're going to probably maybe do drugs, maybe
Hmm.
become alcoholic. And if you had to steal food for your family, you would do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody would do it.
Yes.
And they would resort to violence in other ways. So a lot of this is a political infrastructure
Yeah.
problem, because our
A
social
societal problem.
infrastructure, yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
because well, in America, we allow so much money to go to the top couple of percent.
Hmm.
And you look at, we're destroying the Department of Education. What's the
Yes.
best investment you could
Yes.
make in a country's future? Education.
Health and education.
Yeah, well, healthcare too. I mean,
Yes.
in Canada, if I understand correctly, you have sort of
Free healthcare.
socialized med. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So we should have that in the U.S. I don't think
Yes.
anybody should have to die
Exactly.
because they can't afford,
Treatment.
chemotherapy out of their,
Right.
Um, and unfortunately, in the U.S.,
The money is completely off kilter.
yeah,
Right. I mean,
and
even just taxing all these rich people proportionally would actually provide the money for education to feed everyone and to give everybody that stability they need in order to thrive. Nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to be struggling.
yeah.
People want, I do want a steady job, or I have ideas for a great career. But if you're starving and you can't pay your rent, right? Or now you're faced, I've broken my leg. What do I do? Fix it myself because it's going to cost me everything, my life, to go to the emergency, right? It's all disproportional. What the hell is going on?
Well, yeah, and Citizens United makes it worse because not only do they get more of the money, they could change the rules to their advantage.
Which they
But
are.
what I say to a lot of people, because I've gotten into arguments about
Hmm.
this, and I say you should tax the rich more, and they go, "Well, it's my money." Well, if it was your money, um, we shouldn't tax you at all.
Yeah,
But basically, um, say someone is worth $500 million. If we tax them an extra $5 million, is their life going to change?
no.
No.
But putting that in the right system and cleaning the system up so we don't have
Mm,
corruption, right?
okay.
But I think one thing that people forget, especially people at the top, I call them the ivory towers. They're up in their little ivory tower. They're so far removed from the very foundation of what they've built. And they've
Mm,
forgotten all the minions that have built
mm,
it for them. And
yes.
at some point, those minions are going to feel abused and walk away. And what happens? Your ivory tower starts crumbling, right?
True.
And it's like you didn't get there without all of them, right? And
But
this
they'll
is,
never they'll never say that. But
oh
okay.
God, no, they did it all on their own, yeah. There was a TV show on this week called Elspeth, and she's kind of a lawyer that solves crime.
Okay. I've
And it
heard of
was
it.
right, and it was about a guy that didn't like people, so he had everything AI, and he had a strong room, he had everything else, and there was a guy that he killed, and he didn't kill him, he put him in the strong room, so everybody's trying to find him, right? And this guy was just like, I don't need anything, I've got AI, and everything was, like, throw money at it, throw money at it. I don't want people. Well, of course, it backfired on him, right? The poor guy did actually manage to escape only to get run over,
Okay.
right? So, and eventually he went off to jail where there are a lot of people and
Yeah.
no such AIs. And
Not
I
not
think
much AI, yeah.
right, exactly. A different kind of AI. But
Mm,
the whole thing is people think they can buy whatever they want to buy when they're rich, and they think they can buy it at the expense of people. And I think what we're seeing is a turn in society right now is that no, you can't buy me. You can't buy me. I'm not going to accept that. And the more that we push back, the more we stand up, the more we say, no,
yep.
you pay me what I'm worth or I don't do the job. All right. And I interview so many people that left corporate because of basic corporate abuse, which most people go
Yeah.
through, and start their own careers. And they may not make the six figures, but they're so much more enriched and abundant than they were before because they don't have the same stress level or abuse level. Right. So
True. Yeah. Well,
change
I
can
mean,
happen. We just got to embrace it.
I'm sure you've read some of the same articles I have. And there was a study that a lot of CEOs are sociopathic.
Yes.
Um, we're-
Narcissistic. Yeah.
well, that too. I guess they're related in some
Yes. Yeah.
ways,
Well, kind of narcissist first before the sociopathic. It goes hand
but
in hand.
but but there's a lack of human empathy
Absolutely.
in many corporations,
Yes.
and they force people to do things that they don't want to do.
Exactly.
In terms of business ethics. And you got to make that number. They'll do
Hmm.
anything to make that number. And
They don't care the cost, the
as a
humanity cost.
former, as an not a former MBA, as a Wharton MBA, I can tell you that many years ago when I was in school, there were discussions in finance classes. Can you measure the effect of a corporation solely by their bottom line?
Mm.
There are some companies out there that provide good services to people that, maybe if they just broke even some
Yeah.
years, the world would still be good.
Let's
What,
have a word with Bezos, okay?
excuse me? Oh,
Bezos, Amazon.
Bezos.
Yeah.
Bezos, yeah.
Right. Because
Um,
look how he treats his people, right?
yeah,
And Walmart, two groups that do not pay appropriately. And look how rich they are, right?
well,
So, and that this is the thing is, in a lot of ways, we've glorified them. In a lot of ways, we've given them that platform because people have been taught for the last 20, 30 years that you're not important unless you're rich. The Armani suit, the
Yeah.
fancy car, the big house, and then you're a somebody. You'll be happy when, and it doesn't matter how you get there, man. Beat them down, whatever, just get there. And that's when you'll have everything. And having interviewed many of these people, I got there and I
Yeah.
realized how empty I was, how exhausted I was, how stressed I was, how, completely unfulfilled I was, right? Because the happiness is an inside out job. It's not the outside in. And,
Remember Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? We all
yes,
watched that. That
yes,
sort of like made
yes.
people want to emulate
Yeah.
the rich and famous. So,
And
what?
then, you
Sorry, I
look at all
interrupted.
the housewives type programs and you look at everything. Is there one person authentic there? The amount of plastic surgery in there, they're at each other's throat all the time. Everything is about how bitchy they can all get. Is that what you want to emulate? Where's the compassion? Where is the joy?
You know?
If you're emulating that, then you need to have a good talk with your mirror.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
We've been sold a bill of goods that this is what counts, and it isn't. We need to look at it. And I've got three millennials. And so they are just not buying into that. They're just not interested in that. And they've
That's
actually
good.
kind of become our 70s granola kids in
Yeah.
many ways, right? They want authenticity, they want meaningful purpose. They're not chasing that
Hmm.
because they're seeing how unrealistic and fake it is. And we've still got that generation that are so wrapped up in it. But I think we're seeing that pendulum swing the other way. And I just wish it would swing a little faster, but it's all a
Yeah.
generational thing, isn't it? And, one day gun lobbyists won't be able to buy a politician. Once we've got rid of the lobbyists, the politicians have to actually work for their salary and
True.
represent the people. And that's what needs to be put right because we are going to see more shootings. We're going to see more politicians and gun people protecting their rights at the expense of the rights of others. So it is up
So,
to us for the change. We've got to keep pushing back. And your book is one of those things that even though you're kind of giving the nitty gritty of it, but you've made it fictional that it's not any one story. It could be anywhere, anytime. I think it gives power to the people of no matter the cost, we need to stand up. We need to push back. It's not just after a shooting, the news is all on, and they interview everybody and then they go away. Oh gosh, well, there's another shooting. And
yeah.
that one doesn't get as much coverage because the last one took all the coverage. And, when are we going to put the value on life?
Well, that's what it's all about when you get right down to it.
Mm,
It's about sustaining life on our planet, and a lot of these, a lot of people's motivations are just to maximize their own wealth as opposed to caring about other things.
mm,
We pulled out of the environmental thing in Paris because somebody wants to please the oil companies. And I guess they have very deep pockets, and
oh, yes.
but when you think about it, it's sort of a sin, you know.
Mm,
You know what it's like smoking,
mm,
right? You know what you're doing is going to hurt you at a certain point, but you're kicking the can down the road.
yeah.
So
But look what happened with the smoking lobbyist. Eventually, it changed.
it
It
did.
could be you couldn't sell it to underage kids. You have this disclaimer on the packets. They stopped sponsoring certain events, right? And it through pressure from other people. And we
Yeah,
have to go. We have to realize that we, the people, have the power to make the change through the pressure. People like your parents in this book. Yes, they pay the price to go to jail. What happens to them at the end? You've got to buy the book and find out. But the whole
true.
point is
Thank you.
they shed a spotlight on the problem.
Yeah.
They're willing to sacrifice themselves to bring about justice, to bring about, I always say, when you can do something about it, but you can't be unaware anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like we can turn the cheek for so long, but your head's going to go spinning around and around and around if you keep turning your cheek. At some point, we've got to stand with people for what is right. Whether you have children at school or not, Do you have grandchildren? You've just become a granddad. I'm just
Mhm.
become a grandmother times three now. And we want those children to be able to grow up with a good education, feel safe, feel seen and heard, and know that they've got a future, not be fearful of it. And if we want change, we have to put the pressure on. And we always need an
Indeed.
example, right? We need that somebody that steps up in courage. And you've done it in your book, that courage to step up and fight back. So hopefully it will inspire other people to go, well, what can I do that I believe in that I could stand up with? I can get other people to stand up against. Because the more we go, la, 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 it doesn't affect me, the more it affects you.
Yeah. Yes, true.
Right. And I want to talk about your other books as well, because you've got quite a few
Okay.
of them here. You've got Time Framed, you've got Mean Spirits, you've got Baby Boomer Bust, as long as the Bushy Ridge Militia. So tell us a little bit about your other books.
Well, Mean Spirits is a ghost story. I always,
Ooh.
and it was the first book that I wrote. I wrote it in the late 1980s.
Mm,
And, but I wanted to write, I always was, intrigued slash scared of ghosts because I used to go to this store in town, a bookstore, and I used to read real ghost stories by Hans Holzer.
mhm,
So, yeah, they had an impact on me.
mhm.
And but I wanted, if I'm going to write a ghost story, I wanted to write it from the perspective if ghosts really existed. Mu much like, okay, much like the movie, like the book and the movie Contact by Carl Sagan.
Yes, yeah.
That was his idea, was to base it upon if aliens really contacted us, how would it happen scientifically?
Mhm.
So I spent about 18 weekends in the New York City Public Library. I lived in Manhattan at the time, and there was no internet. So
Right, right.
I
Before
read
internet, folks.
I read every book I could find about parapsychology and
Mhm,
paranormal, and I tried to incorporate that in. And it's an interesting story. It's about a family, a great American family that comes over on the Mayflower, and something untoward happens on the Mayflower with another family's servant girl, and she's forced to commit suicide, and she comes back every other generation to haunt and embarrass the Penfield family, who's a great American family. And Time Framed is sort of a continuation
mhm,
of that, but it's the present communicating psychically with the future.
mhm,
And the present is trying to change the future, and the future is trying to change the past. And there's it's
mhm.
sort of like a chess game. Interestingly, because you were talking about something like this, the government in the year 2052, that's the future, it is not defined by geography anymore. It's defined by social class. So
Oh, is
you
that yes?
no.
It's just
And
what no government. What do you mean social
no.
clubs?
Oh, no, but it has 15 strata.
Hmm.
And the very top only has 40,000 people in it. You have to be, it's almost like a country club. You have to pay
Uh,
a
to
billion
gain
dollars
money.
to get in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And they could do things, they could get away with things
Hmm.
that the lower strata can't. And so it's really wealth inequality taken to an extreme. And it's interesting, I think.
Mm.
And it's a good read. It's 650 pages. I don't know how I finished writing it, but I did. I did. And Baby Boomer Bust was my only nonfiction book, and it was really just about I was a partner in a small ad agency, and sometimes you write a book to promote your business.
Hmm.
And this book was about the 2008, 2009
Mm.
financial meltdown and how it affected baby boomers. And you use that to no, yeah, because a lot of them were ready to retire, and all of a
Yes.
sudden their 401ks go down 35%,
Yes.
So it really was sort of like a Studs Terkel like interview with 8 different baby boomers across the socioeconomic spectrum and asking them how it affected them.
Hmm.
And so it was interesting, but it's probably not relevant today because luckily we've gotten through that, although some people still have bruises from it.
Oh, yes. But maybe it's also a warning.
Yeah.
The thing is, like with these shows, I've been doing it 13 and a half years, and it doesn't matter if the show is 13 years old or it's current. It's that information is relevant to somebody who is at that journey in life. And whether it's talking about particular events, if we know about these particular events, what that are detrimental to us, we can
Mhm.
open our eyes to like making sure it doesn't happen again. Like, and quite honestly, we have no excuse as human beings with the internet and all the information and history at our fingertips to repeat it. And what we're seeing in the repeat at the present moment, I think one thing that they forgot to take into account is the fact of the internet, of people you're always going to have people who don't want to know. They just don't want to know, right?
Yep.
They'll buy any headline you tell them as long as they don't have to be accountable for anything going on because they can blame everyone else. But you've got other people going, is this fact? I can look this up. No, we're repeating this. This is the same old garbage from X, Y, Z ago. And no, we're not going to put up with it this time. We're going to educate people as to what the real fact is. So,
Mhm.
what worked in the past, which they've been very much trying to repeat now, I don't think will work because there's too many people with the internet that are pushing back. So there's pros and cons to it, but at the same
Yep.
time, let's feed the pros because we already know who the cons are.
Yeah, and also there's too much information.
Yes, all fake information, which is also one that we got
So
to be
yeah,
careful of.
well, that's
Yeah,
part of it, and
yeah,
it's a paralysis by analysis, as they
yes,
call it,
yes.
and so it's hard to make some decisions. And
Which I think invites us to look more into it, to look at more ethical people that have no agenda other
yeah,
than giving you the truth. Is like stop being headliners, start looking at content. Think
yeah,
for yourself, inquire for yourself.
no, I mean, and half of the stuff you see on Facebook is made up.
Yes. Yeah, and
And
everything is an algorithm. We're an algorithm. What we feed is what grows. If you go
yeah,
to feed the sensationalism, that's what you got to get back in your face. If
yeah.
you feed the positivity and the celebration of each other, this is what we're going to get. It's all energy. Where do we put our energy? All right.
Oh,
And so we really want to put our energy in something that's productive and creative and compassionate rather than feeding the negativity because the negativity thrives on it. Right.
I agree. You can't, that makes a lot of sense. Um,
But again, being aware and, putting a book out like this, for some people, obviously, probably can maybe too close for comfort. But at the same time, I think it's something that kind of should be in the schools, should be taught by teachers, should be a book that they read and have a converse about. Because yes, it's about the children being lost, but it's nobody ever talks about the parents or the siblings or the aunts and uncles or the best friends that are left behind, right? Or and that everybody feels it's just like an uphill fight within NRA. We're never going to get there. When it's like, how many people would be inspired by the book? Or how many kids are educated on it, or how to recognize things, or that have a conversation with their parents, God forbid, right? Um, I always say books are a wonderful gift to give at any time, but of course we've got Christmas coming up. And
yes,
yeah, all right, it
indeed.
may be a heavy story, but it is a story that needs to be talked about because if we ignore it, repeats.
Well, one of the reasons I wrote it was to raise awareness and
Hmm.
sort of create a discussion in some families or in some groups. So, now most of the people I've done some readings, to different groups, and they think it's something we really need to talk
Yes.
about. And someday, hopefully, well, they'll never go away, but instead of like three or four a year, maybe there's one.
Oh no, I mean the amount of shootings that are happening, people that die from gun violence in America alone is generally more than what happens in the rest of the world. And
Yes.
it's become something that's just another shooting, prayers and thoughts, right? And we've become so desensitized, and we need to get sensitive on it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you mentioned before, we have more guns than people,
Yes.
1.4 guns per person. And if you just limit the base to gun owners, it's 4 to 5. And the homicide rate in the US is about 8 times as in Western Europe. And
Yeah.
obviously, Western Europe countries, um, it's less than a half a gun per
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a mathematician to figure
Mm.
out there's a correlation there. So
There is most certainly a massive flaw. And until America stands up and says life matters,
yeah,
right? This is under a story, their story matters. And the story does matter. When we put that life matters over money, life matters over any one person having power, um, we're not going to see the resolve. And what you've done is we've seen kids that have survived shooting stand up and form their own form of little militia and
sure.
speak out.
Marjorie
But
Stoneman Douglas, for sure.
exactly, exactly. But what we do is who hears from the parents because nobody really wants, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I feel sorry for them, but what do I do? We get behind them. We get behind them, right? We help them get justice for the children. It's not the shooter. That's the person who pulled the trigger. It's everything else behind that made that person shoot. We got to address the root cause, stop band-aiding everything.
Yeah, it's sort of the butterfly effect.
Yes,
Probably it was set in motion like 10 steps prior
yes,
by
yes,
lots of different things. So,
yes. And if we don't turn those eyes inward and we start looking at, again, when that knowingness, that when you know, you can't unknow, and you have to do something about it. To not so is to be the culprit as well, right? And it's like
yeah.
a lot of people say, but I'm only one person. What can I do? Have a conversation with other people, find those people that are just as irate as you, and stand up together. And this is without pitchforks. This is with dialogue. This is with accountability. This is with forcing the agenda. This is kind of rather like that 2000 small claims court,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
like,
that was
what
an
can you
interesting
do
one.
to saturate something that brings attention to it that is not going to be bought or gone away, right? And there's plenty of great minds out there. And instead of standing on your own, let's stand with people and make a difference.
Couldn't say it better myself.
So, it takes courage to write this book. It takes understanding. You're a father and now a grandfather. So that, as I said, I've interviewed people who have lost their children, some to
Yeah,
violence, some to suicide, some to accidents or cancer or whatever. And they've chosen to proceed forward with their life by bringing their child with them in memory, in cause, in purpose. Um, but when somebody is so violently taken from you, it's yes, you want the justice. It's not the eye for the eye. You want, like, how did this happen? Where's the accountability? It's the village, it's the whole village that's at fault. So
sure.
how do we change what's going on so that this doesn't happen again? And I think it's about time that we looked less at Kardashian and housewives and look more at families and children and look at where the real value is and get behind it. So I recommend you getting this book for Christmas to people or buying it as a family book. If
Yeah,
you've got teenagers, even 10 and up,
yeah.
when the
Well,
kids
probably 13 and up, but
okay,
yeah.
we've got kids that are very bright today. So
Yeah, okay,
um
maybe.
but the thing is, I think when kids understand the pain and the anguish from the parents and what parents would do to get justice, maybe they would think twice before, facing something or feel freer to go to the parents when they have something. A lot of the time, the kids don't think about the parents because they're too much of their own anguish. If they're realizing the pain and anguish with the parents and the siblings and everybody else that's left behind, maybe it might be that pause they need before action is taken.
Makes sense.
And until people read it and talk about it and share it and decide what they're going to do about it, right? We won't see the change. And this is the change maker. It is one of those catalysts.
Well,
What can you
hopefully,
learn from the book?
I think that talking to people who've read it, it makes them think.
Mm,
And that's the first step. And they say understanding there's a problem is the first step in coming up with a solution. So
Exactly.
I think this really highlights the problem and the barriers,
Yeah.
the roadblocks. And yeah, so hopefully it'll affect um, people to try to make change.
We have got to stop being afraid to have the conversation.
Agreed.
It's because we have stopped having the conversations and we've just bought carte blanche the headlines and become puppets of what
Mm.
they want us to be and do. We've lost our own control. We've lost our own power. The more we're willing to have the conversation, the more we're willing to empower ourselves through this knowledge, the more we're empowered as a community to do something about it. But we've got to be willing to look at the content and have the conversation and come together in unison as what can we do about it.
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
Now, how do people get the book? How do they find you? And give a couple of your social medias.
Okay, so the website for the book is brushyridgemilitia.com. So it's the title of the book without the word the,
Mhm.
brushyridgemilitia.com. It's on Amazon. Put in Brushy Ridge Militia, Chiocchi, Chiocchi. It'll pop right up. Um, we have a Facebook page, and in terms of social media, that's really our biggest platform that we use.
Well, you've got Facebook, Roger Kioki. You've
Facebook,
got
Brushy Ridge Militia,
okay. And you've
and
got your LinkedIn, Roger Kioki, and Instagram,
yes,
Roger Kioki.
yes, yeah, but it's more personal. But if you want to get in touch with me, be happy to communicate.
And of course, the when you put in the Facebook for the group, it still comes up with numbers. It does that until there's a lot more people
Yeah.
running it. So obviously, just come back to the show page here and put in his name, and to spell it again for you is Roger, Roger, Kioki, Chiocchi, and his whole show and all the information will come up. And when you click on the Amazon link on this page, it will lead you to all of his books. And you can give a light-hearted book along with a serious book, to balance
True.
things out. But
Well, if you want to learn about ghosts,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Um,
And but the thing is, as I said, we've really got to stop being afraid of the conversation. But at the same time, we also need to be more sensitive to how other people feel and not be afraid to actually say to someone, I don't know what you're going through.
mm,
What can I do to help? Right? We're so scared to say the wrong thing, we say nothing. And when anybody's had a loss of anything, especially tragically like this, they need a sounding board. They need someone that's just going to listen. They need someone that says, I'm simply there for you. You tell me
mm,
what you need from me, right? I mean, through the conversation, you may know what they need from you. But it's just don't be afraid to be there for them.
that's true. And one of the things is you're scared because they might respond negatively.
Yeah,
And maybe half the time or even more they will. But you know what? That 20 or 30% that
yes.
really reach out to you and respond positively, you can help them. You can
Mm.
really, really help them.
Again, from doing this for so many years and just from my own teachings in life, we've lost the village. We've become very much behind closed doors, me, myself, and my own, and we've lost the village. We don't communicate with the neighbors. We're not part of the community anymore. And whether you're in an apartment or house or wherever you are, we need to build a village. We need to be there for each other because that is how we're designed to be. I call it the orchestra. We discover what our instrument is, we learn how to play it, and we can play as a soloist. But however, when we join an orchestra, each in our own strengths, and play harmoniously together, we are transcendent, right? So it's up to you
Very
what
good
you bring to the
analogy.
table.
Excellent. Excellent.
So let us be the orchestra, but first let us own our own instrument and know what we're bringing. But we've got to get back to that village, right? We've
True.
got to orchestrate some harmony that we can do together.
And the digital age does not, and AI do not make it easier. But
No, but it is a tool if used wisely. It can be very
true.
beneficial. Again, in the hands of humans. Is it
Mm,
something that's going to benefit? If it's something going to be destructive? It's not destructive on its own, right? We haven't
yeah,
got there yet, despite the sci-fi movies. Um, it's human hands that make it destructive.
yeah, of course. I mean,
The choice is ours.
video games could be good. You could learn from video
Yes.
games, but if you're a 14-year-old holed up in your
Yeah.
basement all day playing the same game over and over,
He's
um,
desensitizing.
yes, and that's probably a sign.
Yeah.
I think there is a affliction in the DSM to do with digital obsession or something like
Yeah.
that, or video gaming obsession. So, yeah, it's a problem.
And we again we don't solve a problem through a band-aid or for drugging someone. We have to get to the root. And we know that society right now is in trouble, as is very evident with what's going on, especially in America right now. And we have to get down to the root cause. And a lot of cleanup and a lot of change needs to happen. And it's going to happen from the roots, by the people, for the people.
There you go. I think I've heard that before.
And it's tried and true, and only when we stand up together are we strong. Otherwise, we are very easily pushed and manipulated. And it's only when we come together that manipulation stops. So thank you so much for sharing
Well,
with us here
thank
today,
you.
Roger.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And it was an interesting conversation, and I love that. So,
And this book is very, very serious. It needs to be read. I think it's a good family book with the teenagers, and they have the conversation. It's good to be in schools with parent teachers. It's good to be with social workers. It's good to be with counselors, and letting children see it from the other side, because yes, we want to help the children that are going through this, that they don't go to this extreme. But again, we need to know the other side of it, of those that are left behind. So,
true.
and we have the power to make the change.
Yes, we do.
Please don't think you don't. You do, you do, you do.
We have to get over our inhibitions, but we can do
Yes,
it.
exactly. Find the courage, right? Find the courage. So thank you so much. And to
Um,
everyone out there, remember, if there's injustice going on out there, don't sit back and moan about it. What can you do about it? Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.